Here's a little recap for anyone who's out of the loop. On my channel months ago, I made these recordings where I was going to be responding to people reacting to mental health TikTok. I wasn't able to put up the videos when I originally planned because I got into this whole controversy where in the midst of the controversy, I realized that I was being cyberstalked for years and how it affected my delivery in videos. So it was a life-changing moment for me, and then I have all these recordings left over of videos that I need to get to that I half finished editing in the first place. So I start working on them again to put them up. The problem is I have executive functioning issues, so I can't just re-record and do another take. You guys are going to have to deal with the fact that you're going to be listening to me from months ago talking about this stuff and then inserts from now of me talking about this stuff, and it'll be a little bit wonky, but again, if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it, so it's up to you. With all that being said, I'm going to put this at the start of every video that I put out for this series so that you guys know what's going on. Let's get into whichever video it is that I'm doing today. This was the video that I was referencing in Curtis's video where I said that I was just kind of over the same sort of editing style and all that stuff. I had it half edited. I decided to leave it where it was because I did not feel like picking apart this guy's video for an hour straight. But I already said all the most important things I needed to say in the stuff that I did edit. So I'm going to put it up as is. I watched his entire video. I would tell you to watch his video first for full context since I'm going to be skipping through stuff. And I will link that in the description so that you can do that. This video is about people who react to TikTokers faking mental disorders and how harmful it is. They have no idea exactly what they're doing, but they are actually making fun of the very people that they claim to be defending. I'm going to be showing you a juxtaposition between this guy and an actual expert, so stick around for that and you will see that in the video. With all that being said, I'm just going to get straight into it because I suck at transitions, and here we go. So this one's called Faking Mental Illness for Views on TikTok, and I'm just gonna start, and whatever I feel like keeping in the video is what I'll keep in the video.
I've been reading some lore. What lore have I been reading? Did lore. That's right, dissociative identity disorder lore. And the ins and outs of that serious disorder and how it affects people. In fact, it infects 1 to 5% of the international population. Very similar rate to other severe dissociative disorders. But it seems on TikTok this percentage...
I mean, the whole DID community hates whenever anyone shows movies like that one for a representation of their disorder because it massively misrepresents what they're actually going through. And almost every single time someone shows a character in a show or a movie with DID, they present them as a serial killer when that's largely not the case. It's like the least likely outcome of a person ever, regardless of mental disorders.
Could be higher than the world, all right? Especially under the age of 15. These kids, they've got these alters in their minds. Disney characters, Air Bud.
I'm not doing this. Oh my God.
That you have, and two things. People like being the center of attention on TikTok a lot. The easiest way to do that, seems like in 2021 and 2022, is to pretend that you have a serious traumatic...
Do people on YouTube not like being the center of attention? Because, I mean, it's hard for you to argue that that's not the case when you have 4 million subscribers. I'm sure you're the perfect person to talk about this.
Illness. Instead of just, going outside and playing like a normal 5 to 10-year-old to 15-year-old and making gun sounds like I used to do, you have to save face and claim mental illness, whether it's Tourette's or DID or, anything else that's...
I'm just gonna make a bunch of claims about TikTokers and then go on to try and prove it with, I'm sure, no information whatsoever.
Or, anything else that's fun and quirky like those two things. They're not. Today we're going to be diving into the jovial world of fake disorder cringe. Part 2, my friends. This is a great Reddit, by the way. r/fake disorder cringe. I occasionally browse it because it has all the best fake disorder cringe on the internet. And a lot of it, some of it might not be real. Might not be people faking, to be honest. But, it is quite a place for entertainment.
Because it's so entertaining to watch them suffer due to mental illness.
Hogwarts houses are really just how you dealt with trauma as a child. Hufflepuffs are accommodators. Yell at them and they'll be quiet in the hopes that you stop yelling.
Right.
Gryffindors are aggressors. Yell at them and they'll yell right back.
Poor girl. That's how we deal with childhood trauma. That's how I deal with it, though. That's why I'm, whenever I'm not standing in front of the camera dancing like a clown boy, I'm flying around on Hagrid's thingamabob above the Iberian Peninsula. Just... Why are people like this, man? Also, don't hate anyone in this video. Don't bully anyone in this video that is kind of perpetuating this thing. You shouldn't get triggered by it if you do have a mental illness and you see someone who's like pretending or whatever just to have some form of identity and feel special. So they got their own problems to worry about. So don't, Don't attack too much.
Don't attack too much? How about we don't attack kids at all for having a mental illness?
Especially under the age of 15. These kids, they've got these alters in their minds.
I think that should be the starting point of anyone watching your content.
Also, don't hate anyone in this video. Don't bully anyone in this video that is kind of perpetuating this thing.
You don't do it, but I'm going to with my following of 4 million subscribers and my 800,000 views. I'll bully them and drag them across the internet so that they can just be publicly humiliated by the masses. But, you know, you don't do it. Don't do that. Because it's much harder as an individual to bully someone than it is to massively embarrass a child on the fucking internet. I'm making a lot of sense right now. So I'm just going to keep referring to these people as kids, regardless of what their age is, because he's the one who brought up kids having alters in their minds and kids faking mental disorders, mostly around the age of 15, etc. He's the one who brought it up. So whether he realizes it or not, he's encouraging for people to make fun of, drag, and publicly humiliate children. So that's why I'm going to keep emphasizing it so that he can understand the ramifications of his words. And so that you guys can understand it as well for anyone who doesn't get why this is so harmful.
Hey guys, I'm Zeno. I'm the alter that helps the host wipe their ass after they take a shit.
I don't care.
I love
this
sense of humor. This
I'm not.
is Jay Schlatt.
Said they have 271 alters. This is why you keep seeing videos about alters and wonderlands and DID systems and that kind of stuff.
I've seen this. This person here, they have 271 alters. 70 of them were developed within 3 months. It seems to me like a gross misrepresentation of an actual mental illness, and pretty sad.
For those who aren't watching, given the fact that I just showed a documentary of somebody who has 2,500 alters, yes, someone could have 1,000 alters, even a child. I myself am suspicious of these people as well. I want to make that clear. Like, my point is these people don't know what they're talking about. And the more you criticize the people who you claim are faking these disorders, the more you're discrediting the people who actually have them. So you're literally hurting the cause that you're pretending to defend as you look for any excuse to just bully people for fun, which is why you shouldn't just go around bullying people for entertainment. The only people who should be bullied are bullies. And even then you should be careful because you don't always know if that's a bully or a misunderstanding.
I don't know,
How do you switch so quickly? This person has did, by the way.
Oh, we almost glitched. Yeah, I felt that.
She's switching between her personalities, her different identities. I'm not sure this is real.
Bug the voice out.
All he could do was say, it's a little suspicious to me based off of my non-existent knowledge of how DID works.
This seems fake.
Like, just do the vocal cords? Yeah. So do it.
This seems like it's not the actual did because that's like a traumatic experience.
You hear that, people with DID? This guy knows exactly how you're supposed to behave. You are supposed to walk around every day looking traumatized and behaving as if you're someone who is traumatized 24/7 because, you know, that's the best way to live your life and cope with your mental illness. Just stress yourself out to death.
Because that's like a traumatic experience.
Let's stop doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
So I used to work with mild to moderate special education, special needs children, and one of the 7th grade girls had DID, dissociative identity disorder.
I know one kid.
And it's not fun. Like,
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you for making an excellent TikTok.
This person who doesn't list any credentials, they didn't talk about having a PhD, they didn't talk about being some sort of psychologist or psychiatrist or a neurologist. Instead, they just say, well, I worked with special needs kids. Okay, but all special needs kids are not the same. You could be working with autistic kids. That's not going to give you any information on how DID works. Just because you meet one kid who has DID doesn't mean that they behave the same as someone else.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you for making an excellent TikTok stitching the fool, the absolute buffoon that we witnessed in the very beginning there.
Then he sees one random person confirm it with no fucking proof at all. And he's like, yeah, this person's a buffoon. They're an idiot.
The fool, the absolute buffoon. That's really embarrassing. Jesus Christ. I am now switching. I am Caleb. I am Papa Oomsie. I am Caleb. Suck my wiener. Shut the fuck up.
This is the kind of shit that gets 700,000 views. You're literally screaming at someone who has a mental disorder.
DID only takes up 1 to 3% of the population, so you clearly don't have it. You fakers make me sick. 1% of the population. That's like everybody in California and Texas all have DID, guys. I am fairly mentally stable, generally speaking, okay? I have manic ups, manic downs, I have OCD, depression, the standard shit, okay? A panic disorder. I don't have anything that rest, diet, and occasional psychiatric help can't deal with, okay? I'm very lucky to be where I am. There are people who are schizophrenic, right? People who cannot, their reality, they walk into a room and they think, am I hallucinating? And they don't know.
So I'm just going to pause the video here to tell you why his video is so awful, because he honestly has no idea what he's talking about. He has no idea how harmful this video is. He's just talking out of his ass. He's sitting here saying, well, there's people with schizophrenia. They don't even know what reality is. Oh, you mean like someone who would fake a mental disorder because they're convincing themselves that they have a mental disorder that they don't have, and it just looks like they're faking it to you because you don't know what's going on inside of their head. But Kurena, are you saying that these people are schizophrenic? No, I'm saying that they could be. Why would you think that they could be schizophrenic? Well, that's because that's what the actual experts think.
And the experts that I know are pretty good at detecting when it is fake. There's usually ulterior motives that people will present, like they're trying to get out of a crime or something, and then we start actually trying to make sure that they're not lying about it. So the other thing that I'll say is that some of the people seem potentially delusional, psychotic, schizophrenic, etc. So it stands to reason that someone with schizophrenia, someone who's delusional, having a break from reality, that one of the delusions that they might have is that they have DID and that they are different selves. So it seems like that's entirely possible. There's a lot of people on the internet who are posting things that are likely schizophrenic or developing schizophrenia.
Because you don't know anything about schizophrenia. But yes, people with schizophrenia can convince themselves that they have disorders that they don't have. So there is a chance that you are not only attacking kids and encouraging for people to attack kids despite the bullshit that you said that was contradictory earlier.
Also, don't hate anyone in this video. Don't bully anyone in this video that is kind of perpetuating this thing. You shouldn't get triggered by it if you do have a mental illness and you see someone who's like pretending or whatever just to have some form of identity and feel special. So they got their own problems to worry about. So don't attack too much.
But you're also attacking kids who could have schizophrenia, the very disorder that you're saying is so much harder to deal with than what you think they have. So you've completely lost the plot here and have walked back everything that you've had to say and have made yourself into the buffoon or the hypocrite that you want to ridicule them for being. It's a lot of projection. You want to get on these people for not doing research. Where's your research in all of this? Please show me all the research that you've done to be able to tell that these people are faking in the first place. Tell me what you think they actually have if they don't have it. Oh, well, guess what? He does get into that. His little bit of research. This is an insert, but that part's coming.
There are people who are schizophrenic, right? People who cannot, their reality, they walk into a room and they think, am I hallucinating? And they don't know, okay? If I were to do that, it'd be funny. Watch.
Okay, what does any of this have to do with the person saying that 1% of the population is 78 million people? I'm still waiting for him to make his point.
Am I hallucinating? Thank you. I'll be here for a while. There's no way that's true. I think it is maybe 1% because like schizophrenia is about 1% of the global population. I'm assuming that's tied in with other severe dissociative disorders. So 1 to 5%. So, 1 in 100 people basically.
What does that even mean? He just said he doesn't think it's true, and then he said maybe, yeah, it is 1%. But that's just 1 out of what?
Dissociative disorders. So 1 to 5%. So, 1 in 100
that's
people
pretty
basically.
Common. But you just said.
There's no way that's true. I think it is maybe 1%.
There's no way it's true. But yeah, it's probably true 1 out of 100. Do you get my point? And you can easily say that this is a guy who he didn't make up his mind yet. He's talking about it in real time. He edited this video. He had time to think about it. This is someone where they're just going off the top of their head and misinforming everybody on how to determine if any of these facts or this information isn't true. He could have easily just Googled it and then been like, okay, well, this report says this doesn't say this. Here's some more legitimacy to their argument. I guess based off of that evidence, he doesn't want to do any research, but he wants to get on these same people for misdiagnosing themselves due to lack of information. Again, the hypocrisy is mind-blowing, but everybody wants to clap at that because he's taking a shit on it, and that's what's popular in YouTube these days. That's why people on YouTube talk shit about TikTok so much, because they're kind of two sides of the same coin. And you'll be able to see more of that dynamic as I go through these videos.
Let's talk about autism and self-diagnosis, because it's still a massively misunderstood subject and I am sick of it. Because the main argument that people use against self-diagnosis is that they think that people wake up one day and just label themselves autistic. We need to view self-diagnosis by definition as doing extensive research, looking into getting a formal diagnosis as and where possible. Nobody really wakes up one day and just decides that they're autistic. Please show me proof that that's happened.
Open TikTok, scroll for a minute, you'll find something, I'm sure.
That's not proof. You don't know what it took for that person to make that TikTok. People are using the same methods that professionals use. They consider anything that could be possibly related and they try to rule out whatever doesn't consistently work. So how are you going to get on these people for doing the same thing? No one goes into a clinic or to see a professional and not have any idea what's wrong with them unless it's court ordered. Just like how you're making this YouTube video right now, you didn't just wake up and randomly all these clips popped up onto your screen.
mean? You had to get them from somewhere. You did research to come to this bullshit conclusion that you came up with as to why these people are faking or how to tell if they are. And if anything, because he knows that the research he did do was super lazy, he's projecting that onto the research that these people are doing. Why do you think someone will say 1% of the population has DID and then do the math and say that's 78 million people? It's because they looked into that information. How would someone even know what DID is unless they did some sort of research? And yes, watching videos also is a form of research. I don't know why people think it's not. And when people talk about alters and they show these different symptoms, it's because of the research that they did. Now, I'll get back into more of this later because this is very important. Oh, and remember, he thinks that he can talk on this because of his whole tangent about, I got all these issues.
I am fairly mentally stable, generally speaking, okay? I have manic ups, manic downs, I have OCD, depression, the standard shit, okay?
You having a disorder of any kind doesn't make you an expert on this disorder. You could have the same disorder as these people. It doesn't mean that your opinion is worth a damn, because these are rare disorders that come in different forms. So you're wasting everyone's time and misinforming your audience.
You'll find something, I'm sure. The very existence of Munchausen's invalidates everything that you're saying. 1% of the population has a tendency and need to create illnesses so they can be the center of attention. It's very common. It's very common. 1% of the population.
She was talking about misdiagnosing. That's a separate subject from somebody faking a disorder for clout. Also, a counter to his whole Munchausen's argument is that he's saying, well, people who are saying that they have a disorder actually just have Munchausen's. You can easily say that part of that 1% of people who have Munchausen's are falsely accused of having Munchausen's when they actually do have a disorder, how they overlook actual people with actual disorders outside of Munchausen's because they label it as Munchausen's. That's outside of the fact that Munchausen's itself is a serious issue too. So you can just throw that logic back at yourself and you're invalidating yourself. You assuming you just said 1%, right? Okay, but there's a much larger percent that actually has mental disorders. So you're just going to assume that these people who are misdiagnosing are that 1% when they're literally more likely to be someone who does have a mental issue but is just misdiagnosing their issue. Now, they could be both. They could be doing it for clout and they could have a different underlying problem that is making them seek this attention. That's something else you're not considering. But the fact that it's more likely that something is wrong with them than it is for them to just be seeking attention, and for you to go off of that shows your own bias.
Well, look, guys, an altar, Jesus. They, them, repressed little Jesus tooth, 17 years old. Yo! Wait till they find out what happened to him.
I can't. Oh my God. Damn, I was just about to click off, but I said, let me watch 10 more seconds. And he actually gets right into what I was talking about now and proving my point. So let's look at this.
Things I could talk about for hours. 99% of did TikTok do not have did. I do believe they are suffering from serious mental illness, which causes a need for community, pain, validation, empathy, which is why they get so defensive when someone fake claims them. I believe you are in real pain. I do not believe you had did. That's a perfect middle ground. I have to agree with that completely. That is totally true. I'm not sure about real pain. I know that there are a lot of people who don't even have access to TikTok who are in a lot more pain than anyone who has access to TikTok.
Based off of what? What do you mean? The only person who doesn't have access to TikTok is someone who doesn't have a phone and can't use their hands. I'm sure that there's plenty of people out there like that, but there's plenty of people who are possibly going through worse than them who do. TikTok is the perfect app for someone who's so disabled that they can only sit in a bed and suffer. You do realize that, right? So it's actually more likely that somebody would be using TikTok who's dealing with some sort of disability than someone who's not, because those people are working and are functioning and are doing things with their life and their body. So based off of what evidence? Your own logic? Well, your own logic doesn't make any sense. So not only do you not have a statistic to back up what you're saying as you're trying to debunk other people, but your own logic goes against the common sense of the reality.
I know that there are a lot of people who don't even have access to TikTok who are in a lot more pain than anyone who has access to TikTok.
And it just shows that you don't like TikTok. Why are you assuming that people at TikTok are these privileged people whose lives are great? What the person said is very true. These people who are faking these disorders are suffering from some sort of pain or some sort of problem, because no sane person would do this. Only someone who's mentally ill is going to fake a mental disorder. So for you to then devalue that and say that there's nothing wrong with them just because you feel like it and because you don't like the app that they're using is so disingenuous. And it just shows your inability to think critically on these subjects. So I don't know why you're even wasting your time talking about it. But I mean, what more do I expect from someone like this?
I'm not sure about real pain. I know that there are a lot of people who don't even have access to TikTok who are in a lot more pain than anyone who has access to TikTok and feels like the only way out that they have is dead. There are people who are dying from cancer. There are people who are short. There are people who, you know, don't have their legs, limbs, etc. And I tend to feel more bad and I have...
He's just listing a bunch of people with physical issues. Even people who are short are people who are suffering from something physical. And it's because he's an apathetic person. And I know some people are going to say that's a stretch. It's because they're not good at understanding this stuff. They're not good at critically thinking about abusive behavioral patterns. But that is a red flag of somebody who is not able to easily relate to people who they cannot see the suffering themselves, because he had to see it for himself to believe it. That's why he said, well, people might not have legs or they might not have this physical issue, because that's something he can physically envision in his mind. But he doesn't understand how DID works. He doesn't understand how Tourette's works. He doesn't understand how these different issues work. So he can't relate to them and he can't envision it. So he's just like, I don't really care. I prioritize these disabilities over these. And that's a very harmful thing to promote on your channel. And I feel like people are going to twist what I just said here, so I'm just going to clarify that I'm saying when it comes to those type of disorders, unless he can physically see the person suffering, he can't relate to them or sympathize with them in any way, let alone empathize with them. Meaning that even if somebody was suffering so much that their only way out of their circumstance would be to fake something, he would be more likely to sympathize with that person than someone who he just randomly sees faking stuff with no context, because he can see the suffering, so it can affect him emotionally. But without that visual aspect, he's completely apathetic to their circumstance. When the truth is, most people who are faking disorders are suffering. And I know that he feels this way because of the reaction he had towards that one post on TikTok.
99% of did TikTok do not have did. I do believe they are suffering from serious mental illness, which causes a need for community, pain, validation, empathy, which is why they get so defensive when someone fake claims them. I believe you are in real pain. I do not believe you had did. That's a perfect middle ground. I have to agree with that completely.
He doesn't even recognize his own bias when looking at it. He called it a middle ground when that is the objective reality. So that's just the most ironic thing of all. I can't.
More empathy for those people, but if you need a sense of community and you feel no validation and you lack empathy, tell your friends, tell your parents. If you don't have friends, tell your parents. If you don't have parents, try to make friends.
And that's why he just said if you lack empathy, because it's projection. And he clearly needs a sense of community. He's a YouTuber with a following. He has 800,000 views on this video. Like, what are you talking about?
Try to be a good person. Jesus. Don't try to be sick and trivialize things that are incredibly serious.
You just did that. Oh my God, this is so sad.
But there also is a disease that they do have. It's called Munchausen's.
There is so much wrong with his perspective on Munchausen's. I'm pretty sure the pronunciation is Munchausen's or something, but I don't care about that. That has nothing to do with what I'm trying to say. Let me show you this. Through a glass darkly. The clinical and ethical implications of Munchausen syndrome. Patients who present repeatedly for care with medically unexplained symptoms raise challenges for the health system. One proposed strategy for dealing with such patients is the introduction of electronic records to identify these patients and thus limit the demands on resources their management involves. This measure may ultimately be appropriate, but fails to consider equally critical core issues in psychiatric ethics. Identifying patients as somatizers invites a problematic relaxation of clinical vigilance, increasing the likelihood that an actual life-threatening medical problem will not be identified. Management of such patients requires regular structured therapeutic contact with a skilled mental health clinician that is independent of the patient's distress level. Psychiatric problems and medical problems are frequently seen as two distinct, unrelated categories. This is a false dichotomy, as mental health and physical health are interdependent. Cost-effective interventions for somatizing patients' problematic behavior, such as structured clinical intervention, antidepressant medication, and cognitive behavior therapy, are available at a fraction of the cost of EMR systems. So what they're saying here is these people are labeled as somatizers, in other words, people with Munchausen syndrome. And it says here that they aren't taking it as seriously when they label it that way, and they don't treat it as seriously, even though these people need help. The reason why they need help is because Munchausen syndrome is a factitious disorder, a mental disorder in which a person repeatedly and deliberately acts as if they have a physical or mental illness when they are not really sick. Munchausen syndrome is considered a mental illness because it is associated with severe emotional difficulties. So these people are still mentally ill and need help. Now, what their mental illness is could be something completely unrelated, or they could have one of the many things that this guy is trivializing. This person could be schizophrenic. This person could have bipolar disorder. They could have so many different things. They could be a narcissist. They could be anything that makes them feel like they have to pretend that they have this disorder and they need help. But when you label them as someone with Munchausen's, you take all the severity out of it and they don't get the treatment that they need. So going back to this thing, it's saying here, these type of responses to this disorder are cost effective, such as clinical intervention, antidepressant medication, and cognitive behavior therapy, when what they really need is a psych professional to take the time and the patience to help them unravel whatever it is that's causing them to behave this way, just like anyone who's struggling with any of those very real mental health issues. So what is the difference between someone getting on TikTok telling you that they have a mental disorder that isn't actually their disorder, and then you accuse them of having something that is just as warping to their own psyche? Because both of those people need the same amount of help. If not, someone with Munchausen's needs more help because of whatever is making them behave that way. And remember, there are more people in this world who have mental illnesses than people have Munchausen's. So for you to assume all of the people claiming that they have this mental illness, or the majority who are being put into these compilations, are faking it, is you literally cherry picking the least likely takeaway from that compilation.
Try to be a good person. Don't try to be sick and trivialize things that are incredibly serious. Some of it might not be real. Might not be people faking, to be honest. But you know, it is quite a place for entertainment. It is quite a place for entertainment. It is quite a place for entertainment.
Citing cost savings as a junction for violating the privacy of mental health patients compounds the manifest injustice these patients already face in the health system. And you are part of the problem.
So a little less than 1% of patients in a clinical setting will have Munchausen's disorder. So if 1% of the global population has DID and 1% of the global populations in a clinical setting have Munchausen's, how do those two, I wonder what percentage, obviously the ones that are properly diagnosed with DID do not have Munchausen's, and it takes 10 years to get properly diagnosed just in general when you have a severe dissociative mental disorder. Not whatever people have on TikTok. I'd like to see a direct comparison with like in Stockbroker, like a stock meme, songs meme with DID and Munchausen's. And you have like TikTok and you, invest in Munchausen's. It's going viral. Why am I undiagnosing myself with DID? Me every day. Today, I don't have a panic disorder anymore, guys. Today, I'm not going to feel bad about myself. Today, I'm going to be normal. I'm going to drink coffee and not worry for every waking second how fast my heart's beating. And not worry for every waking second how fast my heart's beating.
This is what he was talking about earlier.
If I don't brush my teeth for over 2 minutes and under 2 minutes and 10 seconds, I wash my mouth out and I brush my teeth again. That is actual real OCD.
That's a form of OCD. It can come in many different ways and different levels of intensity. So someone else with OCD could think that your version is very trivial in comparison to what they're struggling with. It doesn't mean that you don't have OCD. And just because a doctor diagnoses you, it could be a misdiagnosis. So when people bring up, I've been diagnosed, which I've also said on this channel recently in a video I just did, it doesn't mean that I actually have ADHD. It means I was diagnosed with it. I do believe that I have it, but that's not evidence within itself either. It doesn't actually change the validity of what you're dealing with. I'm bringing up all of these examples because I'm saying that this is how complicated it is for a person to get a diagnosis for what they're dealing with. And that means that there's a lot of room for doubt and confusion, so it makes sense that someone could be confused or have the wrong idea in these many scenarios. But the one thing that remains, regardless of what the diagnosis is that all of these people are suffering from some sort of mental illness, and you're attacking them for that. And what makes your response so horrible is that they're not attacking anyone. Like, the big thing I want to stress here is that these people validate the fact that they're attacking people for mental illness because they tell themselves, well, these people are harmful towards the people who actually have those mental illnesses. You trivialize it and blah, blah, blah. But again, you don't know if they have it. Even he said himself earlier, well, some of these people might not actually be faking it.
Some of it might not be real. Might not be people faking, to be honest. But, you know, it is quite a place for entertainment.
So then why are you making fun of them? Just think about what you're saying before you say it. Like, the point that I want to stress here is that these people don't understand the ramifications of their actions. This isn't a guy who's maliciously like, mwahaha, let me just make fun of mentally ill people. Let me just be an asshole and treat them like garbage.
The fool, the absolute buffoon that we witnessed in the very beginning there.
For, you know, the next like 10 minutes, however long his video is. No, this is a guy who is legitimately thinking that what he's doing is good. That's why he told people to be good, to be decent.
Try to be a good person. Don't try to be sick and trivialize things that are incredibly serious.
Because as the phrase says, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but it's not. The truth is that the road to hell is paved with justification. People will do anything that they can justify, and he justifies his awful actions here by thinking that he's actually doing some sort of moral good towards people who are actually mentally ill. That's why he kept focusing so much on, well, you know, these people with these physical illnesses and these people with these severe mental illnesses are going through worse than these other people.
Yeah. There are people who are schizophrenic, right? People who cannot, their reality, they walk into a room and they think, am I hallucinating? And they don't know. I know that there are a lot of people who don't even have access to TikTok who are in a lot more pain than anyone who has access to TikTok.
Because he really thinks that what he's doing is good. He thinks it's some sort of defense in the name of bullying. And it's the whole thing's just toxic. And it's just another part of this Ouroboros cycle that I keep telling you guys about. He started out his video trying to punch up at people who he thinks are hurting people who have actual mental illnesses, but he doesn't realize that he's actually punching down at people who are mentally ill. So just think through what you guys are doing. The problem is when you make this kind of content, when you clout chase, because it's trendy to make fun of TikTok, it's trendy to make fun of people who are quote unquote faking mental illnesses. When you do that, you don't have time to think on your message because you're clout chasing. You're trying to hop on every single trend. And since you don't have time to think on your message, you're probably going to promote a bad message. You're not doing research because that takes more time and effort. So you can't pump out content as quickly. And now you're leaving behind a legacy of promoting bad messages. That's why I talked about it so much before, because this is just another example of it happening. But that's all I got to say for this video. It's just really sad. So now we're going to get into one more quick thing at the end of this video here, where a lot of people are probably going to click off at this point because, ironically, despite me saying that we need to take these issues more seriously and give them the proper attention that they deserve, this part isn't all that entertaining, so people are going to kind of be over it, most likely. But I just want to show you more of what that expert said when it comes to people faking disorders so that you can get more context on his perspective, and then after that, I'm getting out of here. So this guy's video is something that I reacted to at the end of the series, but since a lot of what he said validates many points that I made here, I decided to throw in his clips here at the start just for more context for people.
The other thing to think about is, how do we know any of the disorders are real? And even taking it further, how do I know emotions are real? So for example, when someone is sad and they tell me that they're sad, how do I know they're not faking that they are sad? I can't know. I just have to take their word for it. I might see certain markers, so certain things might cohere, they might be crying, they might typically not be lying to me, or there's not a lot of evidence of them lying to me. But I'll never know. There's no blood test for sadness. I don't know. I just have to take their word for it. The same with depression. If someone suffers from major depressive disorder, I have to take their word for it. Could they fake it? Absolutely, you could fake major depressive disorder, and some people do. The same goes for dissociative identity disorder. There's no way to really know if someone has it. You can't take a blood test for it. There's no biological marker of it. But take it from me, the experts who actually will treat this, they absolutely believe that it is a real thing, as with all the other disorders in the DSM. And they also recognize that some people will fake it. So let's get to TikTok. I've watched a lot of the videos on TikTok, and what I can say is that it's nearly impossible to tell if an individual TikTok video about DID is real or if it's fake. These are 1-minute videos, 3-minute videos. As someone who assesses for DID, I'm here to tell you it takes a long time to understand, 1, if they have DID, and 2, if they're faking it, right? But my take on it is that, first, everyone just needs to slow down. There's a lot of people criticizing people on TikTok who are talking about their DID, and a lot of hate and almost bullying on them, and a lot of assumptions that it's fake, and I don't really know why people are doing this to those individuals, even if they are faking, really. People don't usually fake for no reason. There's usually something going on there. If someone is faking anything on TikTok, it's usually coming from a place of pain. And so for us to pile on more pain to them and ridicule them, I just don't understand why you would want to do that. It's probably not harming you that they're posting a fake video on TikTok. So you really want to ask yourself, why am I so worked up about this? Why am I so worked up about this very small niche thing going on TikTok? Does it have something to do with myself? Am I seeing something in myself and these other people through projection and attacking it on the outside instead of attacking it on the inside? Am I jumping on a bully bandwagon? That's a thing on the internet. So I just want everyone to just take it easy, take a breath. The next thing is, my observation of TikTok is that some seem legitimately real to me in terms of these people probably do have dissociative identity disorder. Again, it's impossible for me to tell, but from the way they're talking, they're not being sensational about it. They are, talking in a mature way. They're trying to raise awareness. They're not using their alters in a sensational manner. They're not even necessarily trying to entertain. There's a lot of people on TikTok that are just like, hey, I have DID, and they're just talking about it. And I don't know if they're legit or not, but it seems like it's a good possibility that it's not faking. On one hand, it's raising public awareness, which is good. It hopefully is destigmatizing it, and those with dissociative identity disorder are given a chance to express themselves, part of their coming out process, and saying, hey, world, look at me, understand me, and know me so that when you interact with me, you can know what's happening for me. And don't be afraid of it. Because that's another thing, is that a lot of depictions of DID in movies and TV shows often will associate it with crime. Like the M. Night Shyamalan movie, Split, that we often will associate mental disorders with murder. And that's just like not an association that makes any sense when you look. So on one hand, it could be a good thing. On the other hand, it could be a bad thing, because all I'm hearing from people, maybe it's just my cultural pocket or people emailing me, is everyone hating everyone on TikTok for talking about it because they think it's all fakery. And I am worried that there'll be a backlash against people with DID and even the concept of DID, and that people who are already experiencing destigmatization and self-hatred will hate themselves even more. I'm worried about that. So again, you can watch a video and wonder, but before you interact, really, think carefully about what you're doing. Now, can someone have legitimate DID on TikTok and also make a cringy video where you go, oh, that's sort of gross to me? Yeah, absolutely. Can someone with depression make a cringy video? Yeah. Can someone with social anxiety make a cringy video? Yes. So just because it's a cringy video where you're like, ew, this isn't the tone or this isn't the sort of art that I like to consume, that doesn't necessarily mean it's fake. It just means that you're cringing to a video. Now, on the other hand, some of the videos do seem fake to me. I can't tell for sure, but some of the markers that sort of hint at some faking going on is when people seem really thirsty for attention, and they're presenting it in a way that almost seems like it's for entertainment's sake and not necessarily for raising awareness sake or for self-expression sake. I don't know. You can kind of tell. Again, I'm not saying they're fake. I can't tell by just watching these videos. Now, can someone with DID make a video in which it's like, so some of the people were making videos in which they were rapidly switching. They would be recording and they'd be in one altar and then boom, they would be in another altar and then boom, another altar. And that's possible, but it's not very likely. It's certainly possible, and I can't know for sure. I mean, certainly there are some people like that. And some people actually have a lot of control over their switching. Usually people don't have that much control over their switching. So when I see rapid switching and doing it for entertainment value, and they're frankly young, because, younger people, I don't know, I don't want to be ageist, but yeah, like I'll just say for me, when I was 16, and if I had TikTok back then, I can't imagine what kind of embarrassing things I would have created on TikTok, honestly. So I'll just say that. And the experts that I know are pretty good at detecting when it is fake. There's usually ulterior motives that people will present, like they're trying to get out of a crime or something, and then we start actually trying to make sure that they're not lying about it. So the other thing that I'll say is that some of the people seem potentially delusional, psychotic, schizophrenic, etc. So it stands to reason that someone with schizophrenia, someone who's delusional, having a break from reality, that one of the delusions that they might have is that they have DID and that they are different selves. So it seems like that's entirely possible. There's a lot of people on the internet who are posting things that are likely schizophrenic or developing schizophrenia.
And what's so important is that you were talking earlier about why aren't kids just outside playing, making gun noises like I used to? And it's like, why are you as an adult spending your time bullying kids and young adults? Just like how your generation wasn't doing what TikTokers are doing now when you were a kid, the adults from previous generations weren't doing this either. They were working. They were much more responsible with their time. You have no legitimate reason to do this. The only reason you could possibly think of was to defend schizophrenics and people with serious disorders, which has now been completely blown out of the water. So you have absolutely no reason to continue doing this kind of a series. Not in this way. There's so much projection in his logic towards these people on TikTok because deep down he knows that he's in the same boat as them, if not worse. And it's like, you shouldn't be doing this. Just look at his body language.
Some of it might not be real. Might not be people faking, to be honest.
And you said that this is a part 2, so that means that you've done this before and you'll probably do it again. And he's not the only one. There's a bunch of people doing this. He's got a really big voice though. I mean, again, you have 4 million subscribers. You could really change things if you were to be more responsible with your approach. Maybe it could incentivize other people to do the same. I don't know. It's sad. So that was everything that I had to show you guys for today. This is just really depressing, and I understand that people who are not aware of these issues, people who didn't watch this whole video, they clicked around. It's like, you're raining on everyone's parade. It's like, this isn't a parade worth having. You're making people way more miserable than I would ever make you doing this video. You are hurting people, all in the name of something that's completely hypocritical and unjustified. So what are you going to do about that? If you see this video, if you somehow click on this video and you hear what I have to say, what are you going to do about the fact that you are, in fact, making fun of people who are mentally ill? No sane person will fake a mental disorder. Please tell me how you think it's still okay to do this, despite the fact that that is a thing and these people need help. How are you helping? How is your message helping when you have 4 million subscribers? This is what you do with your voice? This is serious. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because people can themselves over this. I am not exaggerating. I am not trying to make a problem out of nothing. People will legitimately
themselves if they are harassed enough. So you need to be careful when you make this kind of content that can easily lead to the harassment of these individuals. None of these people got on TikTok hoping that someone with 4 million subs would completely just drag them and make fun of them in front of their audience with no empathy. You said that you have more empathy towards these other people. You showed no empathy towards these people. And the least that you could do is give them a shred of empathy, just like I did here with you, where I told everyone that you're not doing this on purpose. You're not this malicious, maniacal villain trying to make fun of mentally ill people. You need to show at least a little bit of empathy if you ever decide to do something this awful again, which you shouldn't be doing in the first place. But if you do, at least show some empathy. At least. If not, do some actual fucking research next time. So that's all that I had to say for this. You guys tell me what you think. One of you guys told me that you think that PewDiePie started all this, which I thought was interesting. I'm wondering, do any of you feel that way too? Because I don't watch his content like that, so I'm not claiming that. But I'm just curious, what do you think started this trend of wanting to make fun of TikTok so much, and especially making fun of people with mental disorders and people quote-unquote faking mental disorders? Why would anyone ever want to make fun of that? Please tell me your thoughts on that and how you feel about this guy's video. I'm gonna link it in the description so you can watch his full video yourself, because I did not play the full thing, so hear it out for yourself. I would have just been picking it apart for like an hour straight, and I don't have the energy to do that. So thank you all for watching, and thank you all so much for all the support that you've given me through everything that's happened. I will see you all next time.